If you look close, really close, super mega close, at the lower outer edge of North Dakota, an area almost forgotten by time, you'll find a really rare, hidden railroad history, but you have to look close. Let me take you there. Hello, my name is Joe, and it's the story of a ghost town in North Dakota and a mysterious boxcar that resides there. This town is named Griffin, though that was not its original name, and nearly all of the structures in this town are not original to the town. They are an abandoned recreation of what once was, making this an incredibly unique situation. It is, in fact, a ghost town of a ghost town. So let's talk about the history of this unique place and a strange train that's sitting there. The town was originally called Atkinson and was settled in the 1890s. It was named after a resident who was known as One-Eyed Bill Atkinson. The town grew to have a grocery store, a lumber yard, a creamery, a saloon, cattle yards, and grain elevators. The grain elevators particularly came when the Milwaukee Road Railroad came in 1907, and they named their station there Griffin, after one of their railroad employees, a man named H.T. Griffin. We'll come back to him shortly. In 1908, the post office in town switched their name to Griffin as well, and Atkinson became Griffin. At roughly the same time, the Soderstrom family moved to Griffin, and some of their descendants still live in the area 4 generations in. The population here peaked in 1930, which coincided with the closure of the post office. Over the next few decades, the population dwindled to 0. The town had basically disappeared by the early 1980s. This coincided with the bankruptcy of the Milwaukee Railroad, whose main line passed through town. They filed for bankruptcy on December 19th, 1977, and the tracks through Griffin later became a mere branch line for the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad, which uses it for a small amount of grain traffic and coal train traffic. This brings us back to the Soderstrom family. Stanley was one of the Soderstrom descendants, and he was working as an all-around rancher, handyman, and driller of water wells in the area at the time. He decided to try to recreate Griffin as a ghost town, and to do this, he brought in a few of the structures that were in town, as well as the Atkinson Schoolhouse, which was actually located a little bit further north of town. He had it removed from its foundation, brought over to Griffin, and placed on a stack of railroad ties. The school's name was never changed from Atkinson, and Stanley was actually a student there when it was open. While Stanley did an amazing job bringing all of these structures to the former Griffin town site, he was never able to complete his vision. Poles went up for a large barn, and instead of the barn being completed, it became this weird, eerie structure in the middle of town that has confounded visitors for decades. The schoolhouse was never placed on a new foundation. Now, we need to pause here for a second because in the 1960s, North Dakota was a primary location for mining of uranium, and Griffin played a role in that. There was a kiln located in Griffin that was being used where material was brought in from nearby mines into Griffin to a kiln located next to the train tracks. And apparently the area became contaminated when the ash was removed from the kiln and placed onto rail cars for transport to other refining locations. Placement of this rotary kiln within Griffin is a little bit unknown today. I haven't quite been able to identify it, but one out of 3 of them actually, was relocated, and it was studied and found to be contaminated. Now, this uranium contamination was having an effect on livestock. According to Leslie Fritz, who was a local rancher who was alive in the 1960s, cattle in the area changed color. You could see a different tinge to their hair color. Stanley Soderstrom also said this. He was quoted in a newspaper in the 1970s as saying that his sheep glowed a blue hue and that he suspected uranium mining was the cause. In 1995, the US government wanted to fund a cleanup of the Griffin contaminated site. They want to bring in contaminated soil from another location in nearby Belfield, combine the two, and buried them deep at the Griffin kiln site. The cost of this project was going to be $44 million, with the state kicking in 10% of the cost. The state decided against it, citing the overall cost, $4 million to the state, as well as the relative low health risks. Health risks here are quite low, because no one lives in Griffin. Had I known this history, I would have reconsidered visiting. However, we did go without knowing any of this, and what we found is a really interesting, eerie-looking town. Anyway, over there, see a nice green tower. Back there, there's a whole town that's abandoned, so we're going to take a look around there soon. And obviously the star show for me is this boxcar, so I'm going to photograph the heck out of this. On the lower left, they found a build date, which is 1939, and a car track tag, and then, of course, the rusty old Milwaukee Road logo. You can also see how the car is riveted together. It looks like a lot of the markings faded off and the white paint wasn't of very good quality. You can also see here on the right a scribble that would be probably considered a moniker. If you look a little bit closer, there's one under the ladder as well, and that one shows a name and a date which says it looks like 9/28, which is before the car was built. So I don't know if these are really monikers. Typically a moniker artist might date their work. This might have just been scribbles from farmers or railroad workers signing their name. The inside of the car was filled with rusty old barrels of waste oil and old tires. The smell in here was particularly hideous, so I did not venture inside. So if you're not familiar, monikers are small little illustrations or names signed. They originally started with like railroad workers and hobos riding around on trains. They would draw little things on the side of the train, often sign their name and put a date with it. These days, you'll find moniker artists who don't particularly ride trains all the time. They might just go to their nearby siding and put up a cool illustration. You'll find hundreds of them. Like every rail car in the United States probably has a moniker on it. Some of them are more interesting than others. Some of them contain creative drawing. Some of them are creative writing. It's just a really interesting field of art. I am by no means an expert in monikers per se, but I always appreciate these small little details. Yeah, really well, nice intact. Behind me, we've got an abandoned building. In that building, see a little bit of graffiti. I guess whoever was here tagged up the building is at least respectful enough to leave this car alone. That's cool. Milwaukee Road 34551. Built in December 1939. What do we got in here? Let's see. Let's take this your way. Oh. Where's home? Wow. Wow. Yeah. You upstairs? See the floor bowing over there. These are neat. Like someone with like legit skill.
Yes, this is garbage. Nice.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to try to find this person.
These tags over there, right?
Yeah.
RIP for somebody.
There's one or two monikers on that train car. This is neat. tell which way the wind mostly blows in this town. Oh shit. I can't believe who I am. Wow. I can't believe it either, dude. You're a good artist. Wow. I can't even believe this is real. This is cool. Zoom out a little there. That, oh, wow. This guy's fucking talented. I dig it. Let's not forget the bird nests. Got one there. There's probably a bunch in the rafters. I don't want to disturb the birds too much. They're probably like, hey, let me back into my house. Get out of my house already. That is too fucking cool, man. Every time I lay eyes on this thing, I'm gonna say that's too fucking cool. Alright, bye-bye Schoolhouse, bye-bye Boxcar. Let's see what else is in this town. You got Sasquatch over here. A town over there. That looks like, yeah, ceiling fell in. What do we got in here? It's like metal junk storage. This looks like some Stonehenge shit. Yeah, that thing looking too good. I guess I could walk right up to this front window, couldn't I? Piles of shit. Maybe a tree fell on it, or it imploded somehow. Yeah, bumping at me, building. Someone must drive through here. We've got ground, we've got tires. Windmill, old school windmill, okay. Maybe this was like chicken coops and goats and shit. Not any farmers out there, we can tell what's going on over there. Windmill's still working. Still doing its thing. It's a building that's knocked over. Why would you have like wall gate things this high? Trailer. It's really fucking weird looking. Barn doesn't look too bad. Wow, another junk pile. Surprise, surprise. And the obligatory penis tag.
Really?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Why doesn't anyone ever draw, like, vaginas?
I don't know. We've probably never seen one.
True. True. We know they've seen boobs because they always draw boobs, too.
What are these? What are all these?
Little wood blocks. Place is well picked over.
They have that.
There's a fridge.
They have that thing on it. I don't know. Something made something with it. Well, the good stuff picked over, but there might be fun stuff. There's intercom systems here. Look at this fucking boiler.
There's a fridge over there that's ancient. Oh, wow. Okay. Fiberglass resin.
I'm gonna tell you what's good.
Those some old intercoms. Neat. It's like they were just storing whatever the fuck they found.
Complete? Wow, look at that stuff. Oh, shit.
Yeah, seriously. I don't even know if this trailer is going to be worth going to. not discovering anything new today. Villager. Oh, that's neat. Okay, let's look inside. Oh, someone actually lived in here, looks like. And that became an appliance dump. Now once the windows went, everything else went to shit. Maybe it was just a foundation, I don't know. Oh wow, that's neat. It's hanging from the tree there. A light? It's a trap. It's a lamp. And this is a foundation of a house. Long gone. Now it's just a little pool. Invite your friends over, take a dip. I thought that silver thing was a hard hat for a moment, but it's just a lamp. There's Timmy going in that little guy. I'll look in the window over here. Wow, this one has a nice sag in it. It's gonna make for a cool photo. Someone drove through here. Sasquatch over there. Wagon destroyed. I'm not gonna climb that fucking ladder to go into that thing. Jesus Christ. That's insane. Look over here, there's another hole where there used to be a house. It's a pretty deep hole. Small house, small basement maybe. You take a few photos of this. Looks like it's got more kitchen shit stacked in there. Whatever.
See you later, Tick Town.
Bye-bye, Tick Town. We will miss you. Magic Prairie Boxcar. This dude Marcino used to always say everything good is a nature walk. This one's a nature drive. So let's talk more about the railroad employee this town is named after. I found out more about him in the Northwest Chronicle in this article from 1900. This was the year that Griffin was promoted from chief clerk in the general passenger department to becoming an assistant general manager. He was regarded as one of the most competent, experienced officials in the railway passenger business out in the West. His brother-in-law, Thomas Shaughnessy, was a former Milwaukee employee who later became the president of the Canadian Pacific Railroad and was soon named Baron. So yes, Griffin is connected to an actual baron. Now, obviously this town has a really unique history. Do you know who disagrees? The State Historical Society of North Dakota. They did 2 surveys here, one in 1988 and one in 2020. The surveys were conducted to decide if anything in Griffin should be recommended for inclusion in the National Registration of Historic Places. Their findings were brutal. They said absolutely not, and I would find those findings to be somewhat naive and a little bit lacking on detail. The study detailed all the structures in the site, which they call features. They do a great job of detailing a lot of what is in the site. It's really an interesting read. They paid a close attention to the schoolhouse, but they ultimately dismiss it as being worthy of historic preservation because it was removed from its original location. The survey barely talks about the one home that is in town, which is the only original unmoved structure that has somehow survived, although it is definitely on the brink of collapsing soon. The survey didn't mention or document the boxcar that's nearby, beyond a little scribble on the map. Fortunately, you've got me, and I'm going to tell you the history of that boxcar coming up. The nearby grain elevator wasn't really talked about in any kind of detail, and there's also a general disdain for graffiti on the site. The 1988 survey mentions standard graffiti in a school desk, but it fails to document what it was. Was it names? Was it dates? Was it scribbles of genitalia? Was Stanley Soderstrom writing poetry inside of his desk? Was some other student there scribbling something inside of their desk? We don't know now, because it was standard graffiti, and we don't know what that was. And that, looking back retrospectively, would be a pretty interesting thing to look at. Now, it's impossible for anyone with a basic understanding of graffiti to dismiss this artwork as mere vandalism. It clearly took hours to create and was created by someone with a really vivid imagination and above average art skills. This is no mere graffiti. We've seen scribbles all over the place. This is really intricate work. So who was this artist? State Historic Society made no effort to find out. Fortunately, you're here with me, and I found out, because I just happen to know a few things about graffiti art. The artist here is known as Deuce27. As you can see, he produces some really intricate, elaborate pieces of artwork, which he does occasionally sell if you can track him down. He's a little bit of a wanderer, which makes it even more interesting. He's also a rail fan, so you'll find a lot of train themes throughout his artwork. You'll even sometimes find his artwork on train cars, as well as all kinds of scrappy abandoned locations pretty much throughout the West, through the plains, the desert, you name it, you'll find it. So this artwork to me is an amazing find. To find artwork of this quality in basically the middle of nowhere in an abandoned schoolhouse, I think this work is better than a Banksy. It is really super interesting. It is far out of the way. It's just great on so many levels. I hope it gets preserved somehow. I hope it at least stays there and no one goes there and scribbles over it. Really, truly great work. Anyway, let's talk about the boxcar. The boxcar is a rib-sided boxcar. It was constructed in the Milwaukee Road shop. The Milwaukee Road, the railroad, built this boxcar themselves, which is a little bit unusual. Not a lot of railroads were building a whole bunch of their own equipment. This car was built sometime between 1937 and 1947. In all, the Milwaukee Road built 3,188 of these cars. I've only found 3 of them that still exist. There are 2 of them in Washington State that are devoid of their wheels. There's the Griffin car, which brings us to 3. And then there's the 4th one, which is in Preston, Minnesota. It is well restored. It is there on display with a caboose. A lot of rail fans always say that something like this should be in a museum. I would argue that the cars in Washington State would be better preserved. We've already got the one in Preston, Minnesota that is on display and well preserved. And this car in Griffin is highly contaminated, and I think it should just stay right where it is. So, if you want to dive a little more into Griffin, I highly recommend this video, which I borrowed some comments from, and it has a lot of great information that I was able to use to help build this video and put in some of the extra research that was not in that video. Switching to my art hat, I took some really cool photos of Griffin. They were shot on Ukrainian film that was expired as well as hand-developed, so it is really cool niche stuff. It is a limited edition set of prints, so if you want to check those out, links below. Another cool way to support this channel is to get my abandoned train books, Volume 1, Volume 2. Hilariously, Volume 1, there's 6 copies of this left with the Griffin car on it, but it's not inside the book. So this was a rare editorial content mistake, and the cover is going to change very soon. So the 6 copies that I have are probably going to be the 6 ones that ever exist. So if you want a really rare collector's item, I'd say go get this now, using the link below. You could also order the 2-volume set. There's hardcover, there's soft cover, and Volume 3 will have the Griffin car, and that'll probably come out hopefully around Christmas time. We'll see how the year goes. And last but not least, you want to sign up for my newsletter. Link for that is down below. That's all I got for you today. It's warm out today. Go. I hope it's warm where you are. I hope life is fantastic where you are. And if it's not, try to make it a little more fantastic. Go. Take a deep breath. Have some fun. Go do stuff. Bye.